Hello there, this is a video explaining how a tsunami is formed and what dangers it causes. So, we'll be going over what is a tsunami and what causes them, what are the local signs of a tsunami, what do we understand, what do we do when under tsunami threats, and pretty much general knowledge about it. So, how a tsunami is formed. Pretty much, imagine throw a rock in the lake. It makes ripples along the water. Now, scale that up, like an asteroid, that is what can cause a tsunami. Now, it's not only an asteroid, it can also be, as shown here, a sudden jolt in the Earth's crust through the tectonic plates that will just force it all up and force all that water physically up, how much that shift made in a difference of the tectonic plates. So that sudden movement and energy going upwards will move the water up substantially until the force of gravity equals out and starts pushing it back down because gravity, and that will cause a tsunami, or basically a giant ripple effect. It's like if you're, let's say, in the bathtub and you have your hand under the water and all of a sudden you just bring it up real quick. That is it's close to how a tsunami in this sense is formed, that sudden motion up, that energy up, and that will cause a tsunami to form in every direction, just like how the rings of a splash or a rock going into the pond. So that is what causes them. It can also be a landslide underwater, any sudden movement of an extreme amount of energy and mass, like an asteroid hitting the water, landslide under the water, or the ocean floor, as in tectonic plates, jolting upwards in a earthquake. Good thing to mention, earthquake. These don't just happen all of a sudden. Most of the times with an earthquake. So that's how a tsunami is formed and caused. Now, local signs of a tsunami. This is the important part. So, out at sea, when it's very deep water, open ocean, it moves extremely fast until it comes to the coast, where it starts hitting against the bathymetric features, which pretty much means underwater geography. So if you have mountain ranges, that's bathymetry. It's literally take land, put it underwater, the geography of the land is now underwater, aka bathymetry. So the bathymetry, it starts going up, or it's not completely deep all the time. It starts coming up because you need to get to the coast, and that's how the coast is formed. It's not just a sudden drop off most of the time, but that causes that wave to then get pushed up, and it increases the height of the wave. And since the motion under the water hitting up against the ocean floor pretty much, and it's getting smaller and smaller, the distance between the water level or sea level pretty much and the ocean floor is getting smaller and smaller, that distance, because it's coming up to shore. So what that means is that under part is slowing down, but the top part isn't changing. So that top part is going to start going faster and faster, and that's what causes this crest to come over, because it's going faster than the top, and then gravity pulls it down, and then bam, you got white caps. But in this case, it's freaking massive because it's a tsunami. So how the signs before you see the actual tsunami, because if you look out into the ocean, you won't see it because it's in deeper water. It will be smaller. It won't be this massive tsunami like it would be with at the coast coming onto land, because it's not as the coast is shallower than like outside in the open ocean. So with waves, another key thing to mention, the waves, as you see, kind of ripple, go up and down, up and down. That's a wave. Now take that, scale it up a huge amount, pretty much a tsunami. That's pretty much what a tsunami is, a massive wave, just being a paintbrush against civilization, if you think about it. But in that case, the water level before the tsunami comes will recede because there's the troughs and the crests. The crests, the top, very top of it, the height, that's the crest. It's cresting over. The trough is the lowest point where then you get that ups and downs pretty much. So the trough will hit the surface first. I mean the surface as in the coast. So that means the coastline will recede a lot faster than a regular low tide would, at least on the west coast. And it would be this massive just water going out into the ocean. And people are like, oh yeah, cool, let's go see what this is. But that's like what are you doing? Don't do that. You gotta get out of there, because this big old tsunami is gonna come and just, come on over you. I do not recommend it. Not the funnest, yes, I just said funnest to deal with it. Most entertaining experience being in a giant tsunami coming against the city, maybe. So that's what will happen. The trough will come first. That's a major sign, huge sign. You gotta go, get to higher ground, get out of there. So that's a sign of a tsunami. That's a big old one. Now, if you feel an earthquake, you're on a coastal city, that is also a good, yes, earthquake. So, earthquake is shaking. First, you want to make sure you're not going to get squished by some falling debris or something like that. Once the shaking stops, collect yourself, get all good, like really fast, and then just book it to the nearest mountain or high ground or tall, sturdy building. That is what you should do. So, that's some local signs of how to deal with tsunamis and understand where they're coming from. So, next question. What do we do under a tsunami threat? Pretty much that. Get your butt over to high ground, or else you will become... Can't think of a metaphor, but you get the gist. Get out of there. So, basically, all the science stuff, bathymetry, tectonic plate shifting, earthquake, all that kind of big sciencey word stuff, pretty much means you feel a shake, Earth is shaking, not the best moment to be there, because, you might die. And then shaking stops. You see the water line go really fast, really, low tide, super low, we're talking huge. You see that, and you're like, alright, time to run. If you're, in where we live, let's say you're in where the ferry terminal is, you just, go to, the high school. It's probably pretty safe, because an inland tsunami, we'll see how it goes. But just don't be by the coast. Pretty much that. Do not recommend doing that. So, yeah, tsunamis, not the funnest thing to be on. I do not recommend it for any surfers. I know, it's fun, it sounds fun, massive wave, but I don't think you want to be on a wave going into, Woodland Park Zoo. I don't think it would get that far, but, that kind of idea. You don't want to be, in that. So, that is that.